Intermolecular forces in action. Okay, now that we've talked about what intermolecular forces are, we're going to look at the impact they have on behavior. So, obviously the existence of solids and liquids is due to intermolecular forces, but several other things are also due to intermolecular forces: surface tension, viscosity, and capillary action. These two photographs are illustrating the results of intermolecular forces. Here we have a spider web with little drops of dew, little droplets of water hanging on it, and that's due to surface tension. And here we have a paperclip floating on the surface of water. I keep meaning to try this, and then, I don't actually have any free time to do that with, but you can do this. You have to do it very, very carefully. The container and the water have to be very, very clean, and absolutely no soap. If you get soap in there, it's not going to work, period. But you can float a needle, a pin, a paperclip on the surface of water, which is defying the ideas of density, right? Because a paperclip should sink in water, right? We look at the water here, and it's almost like there's a skin or a pool cover, right? It kind of looks like you've got a pool cover and somebody jumped on it and is laying on the pool cover, right? And they can't sink through, but they've made kind of a dent in the pool cover. The surface tension of water sort of acts like a skin or a pool cover on the top of the water. Here we have another illustration. We have a trout fly floating on water. And the fly is more dense than the water. It's got a metal hook in it, for goodness sake, and yet it'll sit on top. So that's, again, due to surface tension. Surface tension can be defined as the tendency of liquids to minimize their surface area. And it's quantified as the energy required to increase the surface area by a particular amount. Water has a surface tension of 72.8 millijoules per square meter. Great, we don't need to do anything with that number. How does surface tension work? Well, let's look at a two-dimensional representation here. So an interior molecule here has interactions with 6 different neighbors. So if this is water, we've got hydrogen bonding with 6 neighbors. Out here, this surface molecule only is interacting with 4 neighbors, because on this side it's empty, it's on the edge, right? So this has less interaction than one in the middle. More attraction to neighboring molecules is lower potential energy. So the interior atoms are lower in potential energy. If I want to increase the surface area, if I want the paperclip to fall through, I'm going to have to increase the surface area, meaning I'm going to have more molecules that are at the surface now and have less attraction. And so that's going to be a higher potential energy. So we have to put energy into it to break the surface of the water. These guys really, really like each other, and they don't want to get pulled apart from each other. Never know if that actually makes sense to students or not. Anybody have any questions? Trying to think of an analogy. I guess you could think of this like as a crowd of people, and I don't know, but there's something undesirable on the outside of the crowd. And so people are all going to huddle together because nobody wants to be on the edge and be subject to this thing. What would that thing be? A what? I'm sorry, I can't understand.
A person with a gun.
A person with a gun. Yes, that could be it. So you've got a shooter out here, and nobody wants to be on the outside where they're vulnerable to that. And so everybody's crowding together, right? If you made a big line, then everybody would be on the surface and everyone's exposed to that, right? So you're not going to do that. The water is not going to spread out in a really, really thin film when it can form a droplet. In the droplet, there's less surface molecules, and so it's more stable. Nobody wants to be on the edge. I don't know if that helps or not. So this explains what the astronaut sees when he's squeezing out that washcloth. Here's the a big piece of water. I don't know what you'd call that. Drop. Bigger than a drop. It forms a sphere in the absence of gravity because that is the lowest potential energy. That has a sphere is the shape with the smallest surface area. And so the water will form that shape. We see this on a small scale, even when there is gravity. Here, these little droplets are spherical or very close to spherical because that minimizes their surface area. When we have larger drops, like if you imagine a faucet, gotta make the water blue, right? And the water comes out of the faucet and it's going to hang there as a drop, that teardrop shape. Why isn't this spherical? Because gravity's pulling down on it. Once it lets go and falls, you can find high-speed animation or high-speed photography videos of this. It will jiggle around and readjust, but eventually, as it's falling, it will form a sphere because it's the least amount of surface area. The water spread down the astronaut's arms, down his hands, when he was wringing out the washcloth, because it doesn't want to increase the surface area. And so it's just going to move over. It's not going to make little drops and fall off. Because one big drop is smaller amount of surface area than multiple little drops. So any questions about surface tension? The reason I said if you want to float a paperclip on water, it's important that there's no soap and that the water be very clean, is if you have some soap in the water, even just a tiny bit, like you didn't rinse the container very well, that soap disturbs the surface tension of the water and it's not going to float anymore. Okay, viscosity. Viscosity is the resistance of a liquid to flow, and this also has a unit to quantify it. It's called the poise. It's 1 gram per centimeter second. And again, we're not going to do anything with that unit. Viscosity is greater in substances that have stronger intermolecular forces. So if you imagine molecules as being people in Velcro suits, right? The resistance of a liquid to flow. So flowing, imagine a room full of students in Velcro suits, and you're trying to move past each other to get to the balance or do whatever you need to do. The stronger the Velcro on the suits, the harder it is to do that, right? So stronger intermolecular forces are going to cause the liquid to flow more slowly. So if you think about honey and water, which one flows more easily? If you're going to pour 2 containers, one with honey and one with water, which one would pour out the fastest? The water, right? Water pours very easily. Honey is really thick, right? And it pours very slowly. You can watch it moving, whereas water, it just goes so fast you can hardly see what it's doing. So it depends on intermolecular forces. The molecular shape has a big effect on this. So you've got types of intermolecular forces, but like we mentioned earlier, when you have shapes of molecules that can interact at a larger surface area, the attraction between them is greater. Here we can look at The viscosity, we see that it increases as we increase the size of these alkanes, these hydrocarbons. These are all straight chain hydrocarbons, and there's rotation around the single bonds. And so this isn't like a piece of uncooked spaghetti. This is more like a piece of cooked spaghetti. It's very limp and floppy, kind of like a snake. It can spin around and get tangled in on itself. And so you get a lot of these together. They get tangled in each other. They have attraction, dispersion forces with each other, and they've got a lot of area that they can contact with each other. And so they stick together really well. And as we get smaller and smaller, they don't stick as well, and the viscosity goes down. Waiting for screen. Viscosity depends on temperature, because at a higher temperature, you have more thermal energy, and the thermal energy can partially overcome the stickiness of the molecules. So if you think about honey, if you heat the honey up, does it pour faster? It does, because the molecules have more energy and they're more able to move past each other. Here we've got a table showing viscosity of water at several different temperatures, from 20 to 100. We see that the viscosity decreases as you heat up the water. One place that viscosity is important in everyday life is motor oil. So the moving parts in the motor of your car require lubrication so that the friction doesn't cause them to get super, super hot and damage the other parts. So you got motor oil in there. Well, you need a balance of viscosity with the motor oil. You need it to be viscous enough that it's going to coat the parts and not just fall down to the bottom in the oil pan, but you also need it to be inviscid enough that it can actually flow around. You don't want it to be sticky like peanut butter. That would stay where it's put, but it's not going to lubricate well. And so you need this fine balance. Unfortunately, the temperature of your car changes. The engine changes, right? It starts out, it's cold, and then as it starts running, it gets really hot. Well, at high temperatures, the viscosity of the oil goes down. And so you need an oil that's going to be able to handle that. Modern motor oils are really neat. They have polymers in them that coil up at low temperatures, but they unwind at higher temperatures. So at a high temperature, these polymers unwind. They become more like this nonane down here, really long, and so they tangle with each other and have a higher viscosity. And at colder temperatures, they curl up and they have smaller surface area and become less viscous, and so they can counteract the effect of temperature on the viscosity of the motor oil. So that's pretty cool. Any questions about viscosity? And capillary action, also an effect of or a result of intermolecular forces. So capillary action is the ability of a liquid to flow against gravity up a narrow tube. If you've ever had blood drawn, or usually this isn't drawing lots of blood, but they'll just stick your finger and take this little capillary tube and touch it to the blood, and the blood just climbs up in there like it's been trained or something. Here we have, this isn't blood, this is a red liquid. And here's a red liquid, and we have several tubes with different diameters that are just sitting in there. The other end of these tubes is open. Nothing's sucking the liquid up here. The liquid is crawling up all by itself. And that's called capillary action. It happens because of two forces. There are cohesive forces and adhesive forces. So cohesive forces are the forces of attraction between the molecules of the liquid, the intermolecular forces that we've been talking about, between the molecules of the liquid. The adhesive forces are similar attractions, but between the liquid and the surface of the tube. So if the adhesive forces are stronger, the liquid will rise. So if you varied the material of these tubes, you could change how high the water went. Some plastics will not draw water up at all. These are glass tubes, and the water is attracted to the glass, and so water molecule is attracted to the glass, and then it basically pulls its neighbors up. So the adhesive force, I'm attracted to the glass, I'm crawling up the glass, and the cohesive force pulls the rest of the liquid up behind it. How far it goes up is going to depend on the diameter of the tube. So a wide tube, you're not going to have as much adhesive force for all of the liquid that needs to be pulled up. Over here, there's very little in the middle that doesn't experience the adhesive force, and so it goes much higher. A meniscus is also due to intermolecular forces and is related to capillary action. So here's a test tube containing water, and this is the meniscus that we're familiar with from looking at burettes, right? The water forms a curved surface here because the water is attracted to the glass, and so it's starting to crawl up the sides of the glass. But gravity is holding it down. This tube is large, and so it can't go up very far. It just goes up a little bit at the edges, and the cohesive force holds it together. This is mercury. Mercury has a convex meniscus. It goes the other direction because mercury's cohesive forces, attractive forces between the mercury atoms, are stronger than the attraction that it has to the glass. It's really not that attracted to the glass, and so it's like kind of bulging away from the glass. I don't want to touch you, and so it actually bulges up in the middle.